All right, Joe, I got a bit I want to do. So, like, imagine the music's fading out, and, like, instead of, like, us talking, I'm just doing like this. Anime Sickos, we're in sicko mode. It's Anime Sickos, the podcast for geniuses. And, Joe, this is apropos of nothing. I don't want us to dwell on this very much. But you remember when Super Smash Bros. Ultimate hadn't yet been released, and they released the first, like, batch of tracks from the soundtrack, and one of them was called F-Zero Medley, and I was like, oh, dope, F-Zero Medley. I love the music from F-Zero, and I went to listen to it, and remember how it was just like a guy going like, this is F-Zero,
it's the best song in the game, because
this is F-Zero, it's the game where we race future cars. In the future, we don't have normal cars, we only race with cyber cars. F-Zero.
That's right out on the dandy rise. Rocket out in skies, we're passing right in a prairie of fast. Endless supplies of double seed and days.
Yeah, it's a good. I remember playing and that coming on and thinking like, oh, I'm having a big old stroke. I'm dying right now. Like I became so like dumb and irony poisoned that like a dumb joke is being projected out into my TV. Like I'm that powerful now.
Because, like, okay, maybe I don't understand what the word medley means, but I'm feeling like a fucking video game series where there's, like, never been vocals, like, ever, in the music. Wouldn't have them, but it did. It's just some fucking white guy.
Yeah, medley is a generous interpretation of whatever that is.
But that's enough of that. Joe, you had something you wanted to say. I heard you were in dicko mode this week. That's awful.
Not even this week. It was today.
Just today.
So I went. So I work downtown. So at lunch, I eat my food very fast in a disgusting way. And then I usually go for a walk. So yeah. And I was walking around the park, and a bug flew in my left eye, and then within a fraction of a second, a piece of pollen went in my right eye. So I go from fully aware of where I am to blinded in just like a blink.
Yeah, they played a status effect on you.
Yeah, and I am both of my eyes. I start like crying, and I'm blinded, and I'm like stumbling around. And this is in a very public touristy place, and like legit. The first thought I had was not that like, oh, I'll never be able to see my beloved girlfriend's face again, but it was like, I can't game anymore. Like I can't play. All the money I spent on my gaming PC was wasted. Was my gut reaction.
Joe, and just for the listeners at home, to be clear, when this occurred, you were wearing glasses, which is to say, fucking like eye shields.
Yeah, no, it was bad. You know why? I was walking and looking down on my phone, so my pupils were exposed.
You're in dicko mode. That's dicko mode.
Yeah. It's safe to assume I'm looking down at my phone because I need it.
You're just a little piggy who needs to slop. He has to go to the trough.
Yeah.
Ooh, the trough full of good sweets.
So speaking of trough, we have a podcast.
Yeah.
We have a podcast, so it was inevitable that we would do an Epstein-centric episode.
Oh, man.
This is our duty as a podcaster.
Duty at the trough.
Yes. We need to talk about it for a lot of reasons. Because on our first episode, we talked about how everything is just pointless noise and nothing gets through. So when something does get lodged in your brain, it's like kind of eye-opening. Like, oh, man, that really stuck with me. In a sea of noise, it's really interesting.
Yeah.
So when I got news that Epstein had suicided, putting that in quotes.
When the Orient Express of every fucking rich person that you've heard of from 1980 to now all showed up in his cell. And we're like, oh, and they all took turns breaking his neck bones.
Yeah, when a bunch of old-timey, the political cartoons from like the 40s where it was like a big octopus labeled capitalism.
Yeah.
Like that was in his cell murdering him. But anyway, when he died, I had that thought. I was like, oh, I'm not going to be able to think about anything else forever. I'm Serpico now. Like I'm gonna have to quit my job to be a full-time Serpico. And then I got the next day a new gaming chair, and I gotta tell you, I didn't think about it that much anymore.
Joe, is this one of those gaming chairs that looks like a clown got like dipped in vinyl?
No. Actually, I had to look very hard for anything that didn't look like a streamer chair. This is a very nice chair. It's comfy, but it also does not look like I'm gonna play Fortnite with a camera in my face. It's just a black chair. It's nice. Yeah.
Are you sitting in this chair right now?
I absolutely am.
So are you saying that podcasting in a way is a form of gaming?
Yeah.
Okay, you're canceled. That was that was a test. You failed. How dare you? You're canceled. I was made a liar of. I'd say we never be canceled, but we are canceled. Actually, no, just you are canceled. I would never be canceled because I guess in a rare case of this occurring in the human race, I did not go on Epstein's plane, so I'm actually not canceled.
Yeah, I'm. When the documents got dropped and everyone from like Gritty to the Matt Groening was confirmed to be on the plane.
Fucking Kyle MacLachlan has pictures of him hanging out with Ghislaine Maxwell.
I gotta say, for once in my life, it felt really nice to not have to worry about something. Just like, oh, that's not me. That's not going to be a thing I have to think about right now. I am sitting clear and breezy on that front.
Like, there's a lot of things where you feel like you can say these things about yourself and have confidence that they'll always be true. Like, I always thought in high school, that REM would be my favorite band, and I was like, this definitely is going to be true. And like, it ended up, I didn't know myself as well as I thought I did. Things change, people change, and what I once thought turned out to just be what I was thinking at the time. However, I'm pretty sure that I'm never going to go on that fucking plane, so I'm not canceled.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I also have not been on the plane. If there was like a situation where maybe we were buying a Bowser amiibo, the one where he's in his wedding tux, and as we were leaving the store, we got hit with a pipe and we woke up on the plane. We wouldn't have a good time.
Oh, I would hate it. Here's the thing about the fucking plane. Like, even if you take out the fucking sex slavery and pedophilia, which, like, don't, because that's really fucking important.
It's about 90% of it.
Yeah, but even if you take that out, even if I woke up on a plane and they're like, hey, we got a whole bunch of adult babes who are totally going to do like very consensual boning with you. You just have to go into that cabin with Steven Pinker and Malcolm Gladwell and pull out your nude penis and just go to town. I'd be like, oh, this sounds awful. Do you have a coloring book?
I would ruin the vibe so hard. They would make me wait in the bathroom because I would just be so visibly uncomfortable and just harshing just their awful carnal sin time.
Like, you would go out there and you would see like Neil deGrasse Tyson having sex with a 12-year-old and you'd just be like, oh no, and try to like find a sheet to put over them.
I would be trying to like get one of the paper cups from the water cooler that's like behind them while not trying to make eye contact.
Just every single fucking facet of that horrible criminal plane seems like awful, like it's a nightmare to be on and even think of existing. And yet apparently, like, literally every single person who's been in a movie is like, I would love to go commit some fucking crimes on that plane. It's what I want to do more than anything.
And by
I don't understand.
The sheer number of names on that list, basically everyone is on it but us.
Yeah, we're actually unimpeachable geniuses. We will never be canceled. We will never go on the plane. And you might be saying, Tom, this is ridiculous because he's dead now. The plane's gone. How do you know you'll never go on the plane? It's the same thing as all these guys. It's the same thing as David Koch. He died today when we're recording this. Congratulations, everyone. You did it. You killed him. But it's like David Koch, and like when Trump eventually dies, they're not actually going to die because some identical guy who has the exact same like amount of money and power is going to do the exact same shit. So there's always going to be an Epstein plane. I will never go on it.
Yeah,
I just won't do it. I would say no to the plane.
I had like a brief moment of panic today because I have a notebook where I scribble like all my garbage things for our various projects in it, and I thought I had left it open on my desk. And the reason I was worried is because it had today's date, and the first bullet point under it was I think it was Goku would never go on Epstein's plane, and I'm very glad that I did not leave that in view of my employer.
And let's talk about that because this is ostensibly an anime podcast. Here's the thing about Goku. You know, he's not a good father. He loves fighting a little too much. But I think you're very right when you read his character, and he's definitely a plain refuser.
Yeah, he honestly, like Kid Goku, early Dragon Ball, would take out like the Epstein syndicate as like a side thing. Like a village would be in trouble, and he would just unknowingly undo it. Like, he would think he was fighting the Red Ribbon Army, but it would be, in fact, just be the Illuminati trafficking people. And maybe, like, Master Roshi was about to get on the plane, and he
would, wouldn't he?
He would. I mean, you cannot know who Master Roshi is and not say that he wouldn't be a little intrigued, unfortunately.
Yeah. And, like, I recently read the Dragon Ball manga, the original, not Z, Dragon Ball, when he's still a little baby, a fat baby who's somehow 12, even though he, again, is proportioned like a fucking infant. And, like, for about the first 20 chapters until Toriyama's editor was like, hey, listen, bitch, you're going to make this a battle manga or else I'm going to kill you. Dragon Ball was actually, it was not about fighting. What it was about is everyone wanted to touch Bulma's teen titties, but Goku hadn't heard of what horny was, and that's the gag.
Yep. Yeah.
It's like really kind of awful. Thank fucking Christ it turned into fighting, because now we can know for a fact that Goku would see the Epstein plane and just like punch fucking Dershowitz's head off.
He would, but he wouldn't even do like he would like. He would be trying to chase like a big fish, and he would fly through the plane, killing everyone. Like, it wouldn't even be that intentional.
Okay, I think yeah, because they don't offer him enough sort of challenge that he would feel the need to take them down. He wants to fight people who can give him a fight.
Right. Yeah.
I think the better example is fucking Luffy. Luffy would punch Dershowitz so hard his head would come off.
Right.
They would be like, Luffy, we have to go to Harvard, which is a fancy new island. That's an island that's themed about great intelligence and education and elite status. And he's like, oh, dope. That's great. That sounds fun for my crew. And they'd be like, by the way, there's a huge criminal named Alan Dershowitz who loves to commit sex crimes. Don't punch him, Luffy. And he'd be like, obviously, I'm not going to punch him. And they get invited on the plane and be like, that's Dershowitz. Luffy, remember, you'll get in trouble if we punch him. And he'll be like, I will never punch Dershowitz. And then he'll like see Dershowitz doing a sex crime, and he would fucking immediately punch him in the face and cause an international incident. That's why I love One Piece. Luffy is Antifa.
Yeah, and it's a manga about telling a stretchy guy again and again that there's a big bad, and under no circumstances should you hit him, and then he nods. And they, like, at no point do they ever just give up on it. They think, like, he'll eventually not do it.
Yeah. Like, one of the greatest fucking panels in comics history to me is when they first meet the Celestial Dragons, which is what Epstein is. It's a race of people who are descendants from the families that formed the world government back hundreds of years ago, and there is a missing century of history that learning about it or attempting to learn about it is cause for death. You'll get executed if you do it. So obviously they committed some unspeakable fucking crimes to grasp this power. But anyway, all the descendants of these families are the Celestial Dragons, which are these noble people who can do anything and are basically the 0.00001%. They can kill people in the street. They commit mass acts of slavery and subjugation on a whim and don't even think of the people they're enslaving as humans. And like at one point, one of them is like doing something evil, and Zoro, who is Luffy's friend, is like, fuck, that guy sucks, I'm gonna kick his ass. And some other pirate like pushes his head down and makes him bow, and he'll be like, bitch, I know we're pirates, but like you have to not hit the Celestial Dragons. You have to not hit them. No one can punch them. And then when Luffy sees one, he punches him instantly in a big fucking 2-page splash page, and I stood up and cheered. Anyway, enough of that.
Yeah, there's not a lot to unpack based on if you know about it and read about it, you already know a lot of the details. I just want to say that if you just lay out all of the weirdness and connections Epstein has, followed by the weirdness of his suicide, you sound like Alex Jones.
Yeah, I mean, well, let's think of just. There are so many things that are so like transparently ridiculous that it feels like someone was hired to do a cover-up, but was like, as a joke, was like, what if I didn't? Like, what if I just didn't, huh? What would you do?
The corrections officer that was supposed to, like, watch him when he died wasn't, like, an employee. That's like,
or a fake mustache.
That's Mr. Bean shit.
And, like, the ME, the medical examiner they hired to do the autopsy, which was requested specifically by Epstein's representation, was Michael Baden, who you may recall as the medical examiner for JFK and Martin Luther King. At both points, he was like, nothing unusual here. And also, he was a witness at Phil Spector's murder trial, where he offered testimony that Phil Spector actually didn't do the murder. And the attorney was like, sir, can you think of any way where you might have a conflict of interest? And he was like, no, I can't. And the attorney was like, is it not true that your wife is co-counsel for Phil Spector? And he's like, oh, yeah.
Yep.
Also, in his like actual medical practice, he's like disliked and has been censured multiple times for unprovoked, just telling people how they could get away with the perfect murder that could never be solved.
He's just always rubbing his hands together, telling you, like, you know the best place to put a body?
And he's the guy who got hired to tell us all that actually fucking Jeffrey Epstein tied some pillowcases around his neck and did a power kneel so hard that his head came off.
And also there was details that, like, yeah, everyone heard screaming coming from his cell. You know, during his typical power kneeling, he does like to yell because it oxidates his blood and really stretches him out.
Oh, yeah, he was doing total concentration pedophile breathing. First form, power kneel.
Yep, and this is how you can be absolutely certain that what is being said is not the whole story. One, you have a brain. Duh.
Yeah, for sure.
Two, whenever there's a quote-unquote respectable journalist, this happened the day of the death and definitely the day after, who, like, all tweeted some version of this, which is like, yes, it is kind of weird, but suicides do happen, and it's important not to think about this too much. When there are journalists whose job, in theory, is to develop and write stories, and they're telling you that everything is super normal and you shouldn't ask questions, that, to me, raises more questions.
I mean, consider also that the current CEO of the New York Times is an ex-BBC guy. And if you know anything about how fucking England is pedophile island, then just me saying ex-BBC should tell you the whole fucking story. But to tell the story a little more, he was one of the guys who knew about Jimmy Savile. I don't know how to say his last name, and I don't respect him enough to learn. He was a fucking massive pedophile that the BBC knew about for fucking decades, but they let him stay on the air because he had good ratings, and also because in England they like pedophiles. I'll say it. Don't cancel me.
They certainly
have a lot of them.
Yeah,
Prince Andrew was in the Epstein things. He was a big Epstein plane guy.
Everything I read about the boarding schools of the elite of England, of the upper crust, is also much of that. It all just seems like a huge abuse island. It's grim, man, and it's real grim. Every weird detail though that is revealed after is me. You know the Vince McMahon gif where he's like reacting and he gets more worked up every time he sees someone more muscular. Every time there's a new detail, like, hey, the guard was actually sleeping. I'm Vince McMahon getting interested, and then it's like the
sleeping guard was actually Ronald McDonald.
Yeah, and then I'm like Vince McMahon like standing up out of his chair, and then it's everyone agreed that I don't know, it was like screaming day at the prison, so no one noticed. All these things, and eventually.
Oh, and like his cellmate was like Vinny Mobratelli, the fucking like guy with brass knuckles surgically implanted onto his hand.
Yes, a convicted cop who was arrested for, I believe, a quadruple murder, and he got caught because he just straight up was like burying bodies in his yard. Like his neighbor's like, "What you doing, pal?" And he's like, "Hey, oh no."
I'm helping these paisanos requiescat en pace. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's fucking like. There's a lot to this story, and there's so many angles, and we have to consider that like we make fun, but like at the end of the day, this was a guy who was committing unspeakable acts of evil and destroying the lives of hundreds of women.
Yeah, and in many ways, the number is uncountable because as people come forward, there are countless people who just won't.
Mm-hmm. And like, we were on the cusp of justice being done, and like to fucking laugh in our faces at the idea that would even happen comes this whole thing, and there's just a lot of feelings going around. There's a lot of people with different opinions. Some people think the Clintons did it. People on the right think that Clintons did it. People on the left think the Clintons did it because they did do it.
You said it. Everyone did it. It was
it was Orient Express.
It was an Expendables situation.
But at the end of the day, one thing that we have to all agree with, we have to hand it to Epstein. When I go to the gym, I always practice power kneeling. And I've never power kneeled that hard. You gotta respect his form. That's an incredible kneel. There's a lot of forward momentum to break your neck bones like that. I gotta take my hat off to him for that.
Yeah, and power kneeling is a full body workout. It's everything. It's both anaerobic and aerobic. It's the perfect exercise.
And again, if you're shrieking, and that's the thing, you were saying yelling, all of the newspaper articles specifically said that there was shrieking out of his cell, which is so much more evocative.
One of the guards is like, "I think I hear yelling," and another one is like, "Oh, no, that's shrieking." That is shrieking.
Yeah, that is a piercing shriek that gives all enemies -6 strength for this turn.
Yep. And just how nothing matters cannot be reiterated more that Alan Dershowitz still has his Harvard prestige. He keeps going on TV talking about, I think he was like, Epstein, my best friend, and my client made the calculated decision to take his own life. And, you just gotta respect it. Also, I have a super normal sex life.
Yes, whenever I have a massage, I, hate it, and I'm loudly saying, I don't have any feelings about this, and I'm fully clothed, and my sex life is also perfect and pristine. Also, fuck you!
Yep. I know when I hate massages, I often get on a plane to go to a special island where I get them and also hate them.
The nothing mattersness really is... just hits you in the face because, like, no one could be dumber than Alan Dershowitz. And he is in the middle of, like, an absolutely unprecedented global pedophile scandal where he has not been able to really offer any sort of exculpatory evidence other than, like, it was actually an old woman who gave me...
Yeah, that's the best he has.
Like, yeah, no, she was actually extremely old and like.
Didn't he specify that she was like old and Eastern European, as if?
They're all Eastern European.
Yeah.
That makes it worse. It's like, the place that you do fucking sex trafficking from, that Eastern Europe.
Yep. And despite all this, he's still, I believe, his position is king of Harvard.
Yes, actually, he gets to prima nocta all the co-eds.
Yeah,
and he's like, I actually hate doing this, but it's in the charter, so I have to do it.
And he reiterates that he will not be taking off his pants.
Yeah. It sucks so bad. I really wish Luffy was real to punch him because it's so fucking frustrating because like I wanted to be cynical and think like nothing's going to happen, nothing's going to come of this. But like he fucking was in jail. There were victims coming forward with credible evidence. There was evidence coming out that was implicating powerful people. And all this sort of like, get ready for this storm, guys. And I was like, he's probably not going to happen. But like, what fucking if And no, it didn't happen. Instead, he kneeled really hard, and actually now it's normal. And don't worry about it, guys. The sex temple on Pedophile Island, where he got all the pedophile energies into a big crystal, that's actually fine.
The FBI raided the island like yesterday. Like, at no point did they think there was some urgency there to check out. There's also, he has a ranch in the Southwest, I think in New Mexico. At no point, that hasn't been like investigated or whatever, especially considering a former governor of New Mexico is also implicated. They just, they never thought to like check it out.
Yeah. And it's like a lot of these conspiracy theories, you said talking about this makes you sound like Alex Jones. And I will say that we do have Anime Sickos brain pills that are an exceptional value and will give you the anime mindset.
They let you translate into dubs better. Like he's just really good.
Yeah, no, I'm on them right now. That's what's letting me be in sicko mode for this podcast. They are made out of bones. Don't ask me where I got the bones. I'm not canceled. Anyway, the thing about the Alex Jones conspiracy theories is it's like Hillary Clinton is an actual demon and all the Democrats smell like fire. And when they go to bed at night, they grow 10 extra octopus arms. It's insane shit. But this conspiracy theory is just like, so there was this big pedophile that was already a sex offender for fucking pedophile shit.
He was arrested before for it, had a sweetheart deal that was like, do you pinky swear not to do a crime anymore? And he was like, no. And they're like, okay.
And like whenever someone comes over to his house to interview him, the first thing he does is like, having sex with teenagers is actually fine. The fact that it's outlawed, I think, is an aberration. It's like how gay marriage was outlawed before. That's not, you don't think gay marriage is bad, right? Which is like, I'm not paraphrasing. He did say that.
He said that to a New York Times reporter, and the only reason the New York Times reporter finally put that interview out there is because he had died, which meant this person was sitting on this interview.
Yeah, they were scared for their life to publish that. Anyway, so we have this pedophile who we all know is a fucking global pedophile, and we have his little book that shows when you get to go on his insane plane where crimes for sure happened constantly, and almost like every single powerful person in the world is on it. And his Madam Ghislaine Maxwell went to Chelsea Clinton's wedding, and Donald Trump is well known to be a good friend of his who went on the plane all the time. And then right before all this comes to a head, his head falls off, and it's normal because the tape the tape wasn't sticky enough to hold the head on anymore.
No, the medical examiner like took out his big medical telescope and was like, my God, he's actually a crash dummy.
Yeah, no, he never had a head to begin with. He was always dead.
Yeah.
Just looking at it from like the Occam's razor's perspective, a lot of people who control more money and influence than we normies could literally ever even fucking wrap our heads around, we're gonna get in trouble wubble. It fucking stands to reason that they would prevent it.
Yeah. And I guess I don't know how you see these events. And I was about to say this hypothetical person that sees it and doesn't think there's anything going on there, because I feel like this is maybe the first time in the history there's a true bipartisan consensus that things aren't normal. Like it's pretty bad when you have the QAnon types and the Twitter communists are like, I'm glad we see eye to eye on this.
Yes, I'm glad we finally have come to terms that Pizzagate is real, and it's my dad.
Yep.
And I think the key that keeps this conspiracy theory from being like, the scary kind that turns you into a far right eco-fascist is that like we see all this happening. We reject the conventional status quo explanation. We know that there's nefarious deeds going on behind the scenes. But instead of like forming a militia, I'm like, what if I sang an F-Zero song that said anime sickos a lot?
Yeah. I feel like that's also how I interpreted the Amazon burning, where I was like, I I'm going to probably think about this for a while. And then a day went by and I was like, I guess the survival instinct just kicks in. Like your brain is just not capable of handling catastrophe or evilness at that much of a scale. So you're just like, Goku's kind of funny.
Yeah. Like there are times where I feel like I'm sort of not wasting my life, but it feels like a lot of the effort I put into things is frivolous, making these goofers, making these little projects in the face of global catastrophe.
Is this in the next part of the sentence is, and I'm correct?
Oh, yeah, I mean, of fucking course. Yes, of course. That is correct. But at the same time, as much of a waste as it is, I'm also not going on the plane.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Where was I? Probably in front of my computer. Perfect alibi.
Yeah, I was looking up fucking Usopp facts so that I could learn about Usopp, my favorite Straw Hat pirate.
Yep.
Cog Talk. Cog Talk.
Hello, everybody. For the rest of this episode, we're going to do Cog Talk. If you don't remember, Cog Talk is our segment where we talk about being an office cog. And what is a cog? Well, it's the fucking job where you sit in a big building and do a spreadsheet. And if someone tells you to do it different, and you're like, but that way's dumber. Too bad, idiot. You're a cog. Yeah. Do it. That's a cog.
If you try to change the color of the spreadsheet, they're like, "Oh, this is the box you need to put your stuff in. You got to go."
Yeah, it's fun to be a cog, and that's what we are. And Joe, here's the thing about being a cog. It's a relatable feeling. So relatable, it's often put in popular media.
Yes. So Tom and I were talking, and there's been lots of movies about offices. There's a fucking show about one. But here's the thing.
Yeah, it's called CSI.
All right, yeah, that's pretty good. Here's the thing about all of them. They're all wrong. They're all wrong.
Yeah.
And they're wrong not because they're wrong at the time. They're wrong because what it means to be an office drone since the creation of those films and pieces of media has changed so much for the worse.
Like, the reason, the impetus for us bringing this up was I saw someone, and I wish I remembered the name of the person who tweeted this. This is a bad habit of mine. I'm like, oh, I saw someone write this, and I don't remember who it is. I'm going to try to be better about attribution going forward. But I saw someone tweet, in reference to the fact that they're making a fourth Matrix movie, I saw someone reference the original Matrix, where Neo is still in the Matrix. He hasn't been fucking red-pilled yet. And he is in a sort of office job that is sort of visual shorthand for the dull, hellish half-death of corporate cog life. And the office that he's working in, which again has been designed by the fucking production crew to be as drab, miserable, and deadening as possible, to me, a person who has only ever worked in open offices, looks like a fucking palace.
Yeah, if I revisited the Matrix, I'd be like, oh, right, Neo was the CEO.
Yeah, Neo was king of Harvard.
Yeah, he had a great office. He had 3 walls, way more than I have.
Like, if Neo wanted to, like, look at Twitter during work and, like, he could just do it. He wouldn't have to lean way far over his monitor so you couldn't see over him to see that he was actually looking at memes. Like, he's in a fucking cubicle. I've never been in a cubicle. Could you imagine being in a cubicle? I've always had, like, people sitting inches away from me.
His desk is massive. He has so much space. He could fill it. There's so much space for manga on both sides of his computer.
Oh my god. He could have the entire run of One Piece, and you know how many volumes that is. A lot.
The other thing is he has a CRT monitor, and you're like,
perfect for gaming.
Yeah, that's actually, the high response rate is also very good for emulators. You capture the actual feel of how, like, you know, a 16-bit game would be. So again, he's ahead of the curve on that.
Also, the tube that's projecting the pixels has a little bit of fuzziness on the edge, which sort of softens the jagged edges of a piece of pixel art, which makes it look even better.
So he has it. I mean, everything about his work situation is better than the average person in an office now.
like for real, like again, he's in a cubicle. He could be playing Donkey Kong Country at any time.
Mm-hmm.
If I tried to play Donkey Kong Country at work, they'd cut my head off and hold a party. They'd put it on a spike and everyone would laugh at it.
Yeah. The other one, when people are like, oh, you know what's a funny movie about offices, is people will go to Office Space. And
it is a funny movie about offices, to be clear. We're not saying it's canceled.
It's not. But it is not accurate, at least insofar as how work is now. And I'm going to just point to the scene that is sort of iconic. You have the shitty boss come by. He's drinking coffee and is just like, basically, yeah, you're going to need to come in on Saturday, take care of whatever. Let me tell you something. I would love that level of direction at my job. No one tells you to come in on Saturday. You just have these responsibilities that are both vague and crushing, and that anxiety causes you to work on Saturday of your own volition. That's how it operates. That's actually how it works. There isn't a guy with a coffee cup that says you have to work on Saturday. No, you do this to yourself.
And that's why it really hurts, because you do it to yourself, just you.
Yeah,
you and no one
it's
else.
the panopticon. You do it to yourself.
I don't have a job that impels me to do that kind of thing. I do sort of identify with, you don't get told what to do. Like,
No.
like that never fucking happens. Like the way that manifests in my job is like, I will be told vaguely, like, oh, you need to like set up X account for Y client. And like, that's it. And like, I'm not getting too much into my fucking job. Like, the number of variables that are left like completely unknown in that request is fucking staggering.
Yeah, you have to be a detective.
Yet part of the job is like, so what do I do? What do I do? And it's not like the kind of what do I do where like you aren't trained and you're sort of faking it till you make it. It's just like, buddy, I could do any number of things, but what's the one you want?
And here's the real secret sauce. The person asking you doesn't know.
Oh, for sure. I mean, the reason for that, in at least my job, is that, these accounts are set up by salespeople whose job it is to just fucking be a bullshitter, and they don't know shit about anything. I think this is the truth around all sort of industries. Like, salespeople will just like sell a thing because like that's their job, and then you'll be like, okay, cool. What did you sell? Like, what do I need to actually implement? And they're just like, fuck, should I know?
This is absolutely true. At a previous job, basically, we were in the market for a basically internet solution, and we basically had 3 big companies come in and do their pitches. Here's what happened when we decided on a product. The salespeople who told us all the cool shit the thing does, those people, we never saw them again. They got their 1% commission on a sale of over $1 million. They bought their backup boat, and then they fucked off. And then the people who actually have to implement the thing, would you believe that they did not agree that the salespeople were being truthful? And that's how it is in any case. I mean, in any sort of deal like that where the salespeople tag out.
Yeah. And like the iconic thing from Office Space that like symbolizes the sort of like quixotic, insane, Kafka-esque nature of being in an office and sort of toiling against insanity to no end is the TPS reports. And if you actually remember what that is, it's like you need to put a new cover page on your TPS reports. Mm-hmm. It's not that like TPS reports changed or like they just added that you need to do TPS reports. It's like you need to put a new cover page on it. And like, holy shit, like I can't imagine how soothing it would be to me if like the big change at my job was something so simple and easy to digest as like, put a new cover page on the reports you do normally.
You know how the TPS thing actually pans out in real life is that you discover there's a new cover page and then you didn't do it. So then you like, starve yourself for retribution.
Like one thing that I'm seeing is that like across the company that I work at, whenever someone does like an internal PowerPoint, there's like a format that is standardized that like is company branded. And here's the thing. I'm glad I don't have to do very many PowerPoints. I don't fucking know how to do that. I don't know. They never told me. But like, just as an example of the kind of shit that sort of like just changes at my job. I used to have a job title that was 2 words long and explained exactly what I did. I now have a job title that is, I think, 7 words long, has a comma in it, and then also has a number in it.
The 2-word title was Dumb Baby, right?
Yeah, it was Dumb Baby. It described the job that I have was I get into a big crib and everyone, if they're feeling stressed out, can yell at me and call me the baby, and I have to cry like a little baby every time they yell at me. If I don't cry, they get so fucking mad.
It goes without saying that you were very good at this.
Oh my god, yeah.
That's why you got 5 more words in your title.
Yeah. Dumb baby. This baby is too dumb. The 2 is the number 2. That's why I said there was a number in it.
Oh, there you go.
And of course, you know, we've been talking about The Matrix. We've been talking about Office Space. But you can't talk about The Office without talking about The Office, the TV show. You know the one.
The one about The Office. First of all, The Office at The Office is a paradise. And one of the reasons is they're a paper company, and the actual physical manifestation of their labor, the shipment of paper, is in the warehouse that's connected to the office. To think that they could be so close to their labor, what their labor produces, even if they don't get the benefit, let's say necessarily, the fact that they could just see paper going out in the world and think, oh, I did that. I helped do that. That to me is a dream.
The fact that they like know the warehouse workers and like they like respect and are like friends with each other and like work together and actually via their labor affect change in the world that is like you're able to see with your eyes. Again, I've never worked in a job where that happened. I've only ever worked in jobs where I use the computer and the end result is that someone gets a file.
The other thing, which is basically the entire fucking point of The Office, is that you have a boss that's kind of wacky, and can you believe that he's like sometimes racist? And here's how it actually plays out generally. You can absolutely have a racist boss, not saying you can't, but what is probably more likely, and
believe in yourself.
Yeah, what is more likely, and it is more soul crushing. I had this happen at a previous job. Is that you work in a place and it's like all like fine, like there's no issue, but then you go to OpenSecrets.org and you find out where your company is lobbying money with, where they're sending their dollars to Congress people, and you become acutely aware that man, they are just giving dollars to representatives who are notably anti-trans and anti-gay. That is way worse than having a singularly racist boss.
Yeah, and Michael Scott is racist in like a dopey way where it's due to his ignorance. And he wants to be good, but he's too stupid to get woke. And like on like the good faith that is present in his sort of overtures to inclusiveness is like, even if he's fucking up and still being racist, like that's much better than how most rich people are, where they're just like, oh yeah, I would love it if big fascist Trump were to kill all the people who don't look like me. Anyway, do your reports or else I will let you be homeless.
Also, like Michael Scott kind of cares, generally speaking.
Yeah, also he is constantly holding big company meetings where you get to go in a big room and not work for an hour.
Yeah, and you can actively waste time as kind of like a goofer, but like the actual like practical implication of that is that everyone in the show The Office spends like 4 hours a day in meetings where Michael Scott like raps, I guess.
Yeah, pretty much. It's awesome. Like, it sounds great to me.
Yeah.
And another sort of 90s, going back to the 90s, depiction of sort of like office culture, and this is not so much of one, is Fight Club. the protagonist of Fight Club, as played by Edward Norton, you'll remember has a job as like an insurance, as like he's the guy who like does recalls for a car company.
Yeah.
And he has his big fancy apartment full of IKEA furniture that he famously blows up with a big bomb to force him to become a Fight Club guy.
Yeah, to become more masculine, where you just beat guys up in a basement, which is clearly the ideal version of masculinity.
Wrong. No, here's the thing about fucking Fight Club. It's all like, guys, men, don't you feel so alienated from your real life? And I'm like, oh yeah, actually, yes. And it's like, don't you feel like this world is just some sort of big sham? I'm like, yeah, I kind of do, because of, the office is being boring and all my job is just to make files. Like, don't you feel like you wish you could just feel something? Well, how about if you fought? And I'm like, oh, you took a turn there. I prefer instead to game.
Edward Norton's character is an idiot. He blows up a perfectly nice IKEA apartment, which was for sure a good place to game in.
Yeah, like if it wasn't, it was just because he didn't have the fucking mindset to buy a gaming PC like a genius.
Yeah, and then he goes and lives in a big abandoned house, which, in my experience, a house that large with that many dudes in it,
that's a gaming house.
You walk in and there's a gaming PC in the living room for sure.
Yeah, if there's a house where you can walk into it and the first sort of room you're in has more than one gaming PC, you're just like, immediately what sort of zone this is. And that's what that zone should have been.
Yeah, that's what the house should have been. Instead of making soap, they should have been practicing Smash Brothers combos. Instead of doing like, hey, we're going to go to the hospital to get, fat from plastic surgery so we can make lye or whatever. They should actually be like, hey, we got a true combo off of Fox's Down Air that we didn't know about. You want to come see it?
Yeah, I fucking do. Joe, I know you're being facetious, but I kind of felt giddy when you were saying that. I'm like, what is it?
Yeah, that would have been a better movie. It was spoke to me a lot more than this thing where in order to feel something you have to do violence.
No. Tyler Durden, the sort of alter ego of our protagonist, should have been Phase Durden, where there's no E, it's just Durd and then N, and he would have worn a backward hat all the time and always talked about a Monster Energy drink.
Yeah, that's how that movie could be more relatable.
I think that the only media I've seen at least, that accurately depicts the modern, today experience of being a cog, and if you haven't seen this, I hugely recommend it, is Agretzko. Have you seen that show?
No, I know it's a good, cute office anime.
Yes, it's a Sanrio show, the same company that makes Hello Kitty, and they made this character Retsuko, who is just a deeply despairing office worker, and she feels like she has very little promise or hope in her life, and things are constantly going wrong for her, and she is constantly being mistreated by the vicissitudes of fate and society, and the only outlet she has to vent her feelings is she will go and sing death metal at the karaoke bar. It's incredible. It's a great show because the scenes in The Office are they're almost too fucking real. The seasons are 10 episodes long and each episode is 12 minutes. But you'd think that you can knock that out in 2 hours. But no, you can't, because you watch 2 or 3 of these episodes and you just feel hollowed out.
You got to lay down.
Yeah, because you see yourself there. And it's a fucking nightmare. It's an open office. She's constant, the boss isn't funny. It's just the boss is really cruel casually for no reason. And the work doesn't make any sense. And half the people in the office are weird malevolent forces that don't act in human ways. It's fucking great is the thing. And she's a little red panda and is very cute.
Yeah, to be clear, everyone's animals, right?
Oh yeah. And even when she has her life improves, she makes friends and allies, but it never changes that her day-to-day life is a drudge. And it's the only thing that accurately sort of depicts the boredom of it all. Because, like, even in all of these pieces of media, even if, like, the job is awful and, like, Kafkaesque and ridiculous, it's still wacky. Like, there's an element of wackiness to the guy in Office Space. There's definitely wackiness to Michael Scott. Nothing is wacky about Agretzko's job. It is just, like, oh my God. And whereas, like, modern American depictions of offices in media, like when fucking Kimmy Schmidt works at like Schmoogle and all the people are like, I like to eat tofu, and like that's the joke, and it's like, oh my God.
Yeah, the most realistic part about the blue, what's the name of the company, the fake company she works for?
I don't remember. It might as well be Schmoogle, because it's just trying to be like, you know how tech exists? You know tech?
Right, okay.
This is that.
All right, well, the most relatable part of Kimmy Schmidt's like fake tech job is that she doesn't know what she's supposed to be doing, and also doesn't know how the company makes money.
Yeah, she doesn't know what the product is.
Yes, but she's still able to make a difference and also be well-liked. That is also weirdly relatable, because there's something to be said about like people kind of like pleasantly knowing and liking you, but at the same time you really don't know how you fit in. Yeah,
I'm not the kind of cog who'd get away with that. As much as I relate with that, the fact is, at least in my position, like there are files that need to be received by people every day, and if they don't, they'll yell at us. So like I do have to actually do shit.
You are like psychically chained to an inbox.
Yeah, pretty much.
The inbox is your stand, and when it gets full, you take damage.
No, I want my stand to be cool. Joe, we are going to do this on a different episode, but we're going to talk about different stands. If you don't know, stands are the powers from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and I want to know what my stand would be. We're going to talk about what our stands will be. We're going to make up some fun stands, but that's going to happen on another episode, because we're almost near the end of this one.
Hey, we're coming up in an hour, but I will say the stand that I think is the one you would actually have that was in the show versus like what you would want is there's a stand that just like whispers compliments and makes you feel nice.
Yeah, it's hey ya.
Yeah, that's probably what you would get realistically.
It's the best. Yeah, no, in part 7, there's a big horse race, and there's this one random guy whose stand just appeared one day. It's this little robot that hangs out in his shoulder, and it's like, you're going to do great. And it's like, you should enter this race. You're going to win. And he's like, well, I don't know anything about horse racing, and I've never done it before, but okay. And he fucking wins. He does. He just does.
Yeah, that's probably the most useful stand, just like to never feel hopeless.
Yeah. Like, because especially as like, and I struggle to say this, I hate to speak these words, but as a content creator,
yuck.
It's a content creator, especially one who wasn't famous already when they started. Oh man, just the absolute iron blanket of like, does anyone care about this, weighs over my every action. And just to have a stand that's like, nah, people love this, don't worry about it, you're making people happy, would be incredible.
Yeah, that's better than shooting fire.
Yeah, for sure. You don't have to go to therapy if you have that stando.
No. So your stando also saves you like $50 a week too.
Incredible. This is the most powerful stand of all time. Gold Experience Requiem is bullshit.
Yeah.
I think we're getting a little esoteric about the anime. Joe, is there anything left you want to say in this Cog Talk? Or are we going to call this episode of Anime Sickos right now?
Oh, we are. If this was a Final Fantasy job, this episode would be main job, Epstein, subclass, Cog.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm feeling it. Joe, I'm in sicko mode. Are you?
I'm like adjacent.
Good enough.
Yeah.
Glad to talk to you. And we'll see y'all listeners next time.
Take it easy.
thank you for listening to Anime Sickos. I've been Tom, a sicko. You can follow me on Twitter at TomHarrison19. Joe is also a sicko. You can follow him on Twitter at ShariaUncle. You can follow Anime Sickos on Twitter at Anime Sickos, or email us at animesickos@gmail.com. Please leave us a review or something. I don't know. Tell a friend. Anyway, until next time, bye.